The freedom of being a non-smoker. The sun rises on a new day. John groans as he reaches for the pack of cigarettes on his nightstand. He lights up, taking in the familiar taste and feeling the rush of nicotine course through his veins. But as he exhales, he can't help but feel a sense of emptiness. He's been smoking for years, and he can't remember the last time he truly enjoyed a cigarette. That's when John's friend recommends Alan Carr's easy way to stop smoking. Skeptical but desperate, John decides to give it a try. He opens the book and begins to read, expecting the usual scare tactics and guilt trips that he's encountered in other quitting resources. But as he reads, he's surprised to find that Carr's approach is different. Carr doesn't try to convince smokers that they should quit for their health, their finances, or their loved ones. Instead, he presents a simple argument: smoking does nothing for you. At first, John is skeptical. He's heard all about the supposed benefits of smoking, from stress relief to socialization. But as he reads on, Carr's logic begins to make sense. He realizes that smoking doesn't actually relieve stress, it just creates more stress by constantly fueling the need for nicotine. He realizes that smoking doesn't actually make social situations better, it just isolates smokers from non-smokers and creates a divide. As John reads on, he feels a weight lifting off of his shoulders. He realizes that he doesn't have to be a slave to nicotine anymore. He can choose to be free, to break the cycle of addiction, and to live a life that's not dictated by cigarettes. With newfound clarity, John finishes the book and takes his last drag. As he stubs out the cigarette, he feels a sense of liberation. He's not quitting smoking, he's breaking free from it. And with that, he steps into a new day as a non-smoker, ready to embrace the freedom that comes with it. The power of reframing your mindset. Jane has been smoking for over a decade, and she's tried to quit multiple times without success. She's heard about Alan Carr's easy way to stop smoking and decides to give it a read. As she flips through the pages, she's struck by one particular idea: reframing her mindset. Carr explains that many smokers have a negative mindset when it comes to quitting. They see it as a sacrifice, something they're giving up. But Carr argues that quitting smoking is actually a positive thing. It's an opportunity to free yourself from an addiction, to regain control over your life, and to improve your health and well-being. Jane is intrigued by this idea, and she begins to reframe her own mindset. Instead of thinking about quitting as something negative, she starts to see it as something positive. She realizes that she's not giving up anything, she's gaining everything. As she continues to read, Carr explains that smoking is not a pleasure, but rather a trap. It creates a constant cycle of craving and satisfaction, never truly satisfying the smoker, but keeping them hooked. Carr challenges smokers to think of smoking as something they're escaping from, rather than something they're giving up. Jane takes this to heart, and she starts to see smoking in a different light. Instead of thinking of it as a pleasurable activity, she starts to think of it as a burden. She sees the constant need for a cigarette as a trap that's keeping her from living her life to the fullest. With this new mindset, Jane begins her journey to quit smoking. She no longer sees it as a sacrifice, but as a positive step towards a healthier and more fulfilling life. Whenever she feels a craving coming on, she reminds herself that she's not giving up anything, she's gaining everything. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. Jane has successfully quit smoking, and she feels more empowered than ever before. By reframing her mindset and seeing quitting as a positive thing, she was able to break free from the trap of addiction and live a healthier and happier life. The importance of breaking the rituals. Mark has been a smoker for years, and he's tried to quit multiple times without success. He's heard about Alan Carr's easy way to stop smoking and decides to give it a read. As he delves into the book, he's struck by Carr's advice on breaking the rituals associated with smoking. Carr explains that smoking is not just about the nicotine addiction, it's also about the rituals and habits that smokers associate with it. For many smokers, smoking becomes a part of their daily routine, something they do after a meal, with their morning coffee, or on a break from work. Mark realizes that this is true for him as well. He's developed a habit of smoking after meals, and he always has a cigarette with his morning coffee. He's even started to associate certain activities with smoking, like going for a walk or talking on the phone. Carr advises smokers to break these rituals as a way of breaking free from the addiction. He suggests finding new habits and routines to replace the old ones, so that smokers can associate these activities with something positive rather than smoking. Mark takes this advice to heart, and he starts to break his smoking rituals. Instead of smoking after meals, he goes for a walk or reads a book. Instead of having a cigarette with his coffee, he sips on tea or water. He even starts to associate going for a run or doing yoga with feeling good, instead of smoking. At first, it's difficult for Mark to break these habits. He feels a strong urge to reach for a cigarette, especially during times when he used to smoke. But as he persists, he finds that the cravings start to fade. He's no longer associating these activities with smoking, and he's able to enjoy them for what they are. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. Mark has successfully quit smoking, and he feels more in control of his life than ever before. By breaking the rituals associated with smoking and finding new habits and routines, he was able to break free from the addiction and live a healthier and happier life. The truth about nicotine addiction: Samantha has been smoking for years, and she's tried to quit multiple times without success. She's heard about Alan Carr's easy way to stop smoking and decides to give it a read. As she reads through the book, she's struck by Carr's explanation of nicotine addiction. Carr explains that nicotine addiction is not as powerful as many smokers believe it to be. He argues that it's actually the belief in the addiction that keeps smokers hooked, not the physical withdrawal symptoms themselves. Samantha is skeptical at first, but as she reads on, Carr explains that the physical withdrawal symptoms of nicotine are actually quite mild. They last only a few days, and the discomfort is no worse than a mild cold or flu. It's the psychological withdrawal symptoms, the belief that smoking is necessary for coping with stress or anxiety, that keep smokers hooked. Samantha starts to see the truth in Carr's argument. She's experienced the physical symptoms of withdrawal before, and while they were uncomfortable, they weren't unbearable. It was the psychological need for cigarettes that made quitting so difficult. Carr goes on to explain that the only reason smokers continue to smoke is because they believe that smoking provides some sort of benefit or pleasure. He challenges smokers to question this belief and to see smoking for what it really is: a dangerous and expensive habit that provides no real benefits. Samantha takes this advice to heart, and she starts to question her own beliefs about smoking. She realizes that she's been using smoking as a way to cope with stress and anxiety, but she sees now that it's actually making these issues worse, not better. With this newfound understanding, Samantha begins her journey to quit smoking. She's no longer afraid of the physical symptoms of withdrawal, and she's no longer held back by her belief in the addiction. She sees smoking for what it is, and she's ready to break free from its grip. Days turn into weeks, and weeks turn into months. Samantha has successfully quit smoking, and she feels more empowered than ever before. By understanding the truth about nicotine addiction and questioning her beliefs about smoking, She was able to break free from the habit and live a healthier and happier life. Summary: from Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking, we can learn several things. 1. Smoking is a form of addiction. The book highlights that smoking is a form of addiction that can be broken with the right mindset. 2. Change of perception is critical. The book emphasizes that smoking is just an illusion of pleasure, and quitting smoking requires a change in perception and mindset towards smoking. 3. Fear is not real. The book acknowledges that fear of quitting is real, but it also shows that fear is not real and perpetuates the addiction cycle. 4. Support and community help. Surrounding oneself with supportive people during the quitting process can be a source of encouragement and motivation. 5. Life without smoking is better. The book emphasizes that life can be much more fulfilling without smoking, and quitting smoking can lead to higher quality of life and greater enjoyment. 6. Smoking is not enjoyable. The book emphasizes that ultimately, smoking doesn't bring true joy or happiness, and that there are many other simple pleasures in life that can bring joy and fulfillment without relying on smoking. Overall, Alan Carr's Easy Way to Stop Smoking educates and empowers readers to take control of their addiction, and shows that quitting smoking is possible with the right mindset and support.